Well, the key questions to be asked will be whether or not the European Eurosceptics, the European Research Group, Eurosceptics of backbench Tory MPs will sign up to this. Will the likes of Eurosceptic Steve Baker, he's resigned before over Theresa May's Chequers deal, will he stay in government? Is he happy with it? And also, crucially, the reaction of the DUP, the largest unionist party in Northern Ireland. And we know, of course, the need to get the power sharing agreement back up and get power sharing government back into Stormont as well. And the DUP have said it's a red line for them. Unless this Northern Ireland Protocol is sorted out, they will not return to power with Sinn Féin. Well, let's talk about this right now with Sammy Wilson, DUP Chief Whip and MP. Good morning to you, Sammy.
Good morning.
We spoke to you last week on the show when this was all on the cards. It does look like, looking at the mood music, a deal has been done. They're just waiting to sort of do the shaking of the hands and pretend that it's all been done, finalised between Sunak and von der Leyen today. Have any members of your party seen the outlines of this deal, and does it look like a deal that you can sign up to?
Well, we have seen speculation in the press. We've had some briefing from officials, but all of that is in the absence of any actual text. So, of course, people can tell you what's in the deal or what they believe is in the deal or their interpretation of what's in the deal. But until we actually see what has been agreed, it's hard to make a judgment. The one thing that I do know is that, first of all, the EU are already boasting that the protocol has not been changed and will not be changed. We know that there's an absence, even in the briefings that we have been given, of any removal of EU law being applied to Northern Ireland, which one of the objectives that the Prime Minister said he was setting out to achieve to restore sovereignty and to ensure the integrity of the United Kingdom was maintained. And for us, that will be crucial, because don't forget, Julia, all of the other problems that have arisen, the trade barriers, the disruption of trade, the inability for the government to apply government policy in Northern Ireland, all stems from the fact that Northern Ireland remains for manufactured goods and agriculture in the single market and is subject to Brussels law, not British law. And that will be the ultimate test for us as unionists. It ought to be the ultimate test for the Prime Minister, who claims to be the Prime Minister of the Conservative and Unionist Party.
And also is a long-standing Brexiteer. Although only a backbench MP in 2016, he did come out for Brexit. So at least he has those credentials. But he's already faced criticism from Boris Johnson. We don't know how much of this is about Boris Johnson's leadership ambitions rather than Boris Johnson's concern for the good folk of Northern Ireland. But basically, it doesn't sound like he's happy with this. But just to clarify, so you and the DUP, although you had that meeting with Rishi Sunak a couple of weeks ago, you've not seen the text. You don't know what is actually in it. He's not run it by you as, look, if I went for this, if I gave away on this, but I won on this issue, would you be happy? He hasn't actually discussed the actual substance of the deal with you.
No, the substance of the deal is not known to us, other than the kind of headline framework.
Well, give us a second. Given that this is a deal that is meant to deal with the main issue of Brexit as the Northern Ireland Protocol is affecting Northern Ireland, and the main concern has come from unionists like yourself, you're the largest unionist party, and the need to also re-establish power-sharing government at Stormont, do you think it's bizarre that the Prime Minister hasn't actually consulted the DUP as the largest unionist party in Northern Ireland on the details of the deal?
We do, because, of course, we are a key player in this. We have said we will not implement any deal which we believe does not act on the issues which we think will destroy our place in the United Kingdom. It's already separated us from the United Kingdom in terms of the UK single market. The government has admitted that the Act of Union had to be changed to take out Article 6, which talks about having access to all of the UK market. That's one of the benefits of the Union. The government said that that's gone. And we would have thought that, and also what's important here, the restoration of the Good Friday Agreement institutions. That can only happen if we believe that by going back into those institutions, we're not being asked to implement something which we believe is for destruction. Because, Julia, and I think I've explained this to you before, we're not going to collaborate in the destruction of the Union. the protocol was breaking the union apart, at least breaking us away from it. And indeed, EU negotiators boasted during the Brexit negotiations that the price of Brexit would be Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know clearly their intent. We have seen the impact of the protocol and the way it's disrupted our relationship with the rest of the United Kingdom. And as unionists, if it doesn't fix that, then we can't accept it.
No, indeed, incredible hypocrisy from the European Union throughout this whole affair over the issue of the Good Friday Agreement and peace in Northern Ireland, and how we couldn't see this Brexit deal because we couldn't have a hard border between Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland because of peace and caring so much about it. And yet they were the ones who then threatened to put a hard border there. Again, wouldn't be necessary. And they're the ones who causing all this disruption to power sharing in Northern Ireland. You say, look, we're not going to collaborate in the destruction of the union. Do you think, though, do you fear that not only the British Prime Minister, the Conservative Party, but actually also many in the British people will say, do you know what, we wanted Brexit done, it's been done for the British mainland, we're bored with this now, it's not our problem, we're happy, as we've done before, throw you under a bus, we don't care anymore. Do you fear that that will be the case?
Well, people who take that attitude really should look at the impact of the protocol. Because the reason why, and we have seen it in time and time again in the methods which the EU have said could be used to counteract the detrimental impacts of the protocol. And they have said that an easy answer, just get Britain to rejoin the single market and the customs union and you'll not have a problem.
Yeah.
And those who are concerned about delivering Brexit should remember that the EU's foot in the door in Northern Ireland is the first step to pushing that door wider and wider until they get the United Kingdom pulled back into an arrangement which the EU were mad because the British people voted the way they did. And so people who take that attitude ought to remember this is not just Northern Ireland's fight. This is the United Kingdom's fight to ensure that, first of all, the government has sovereignty over all of the country and that the EU doesn't have a back door by which it can creep its influence back into the United Kingdom.
And that's the thing I think most of us are really quite astonished by is the fact that this re-burgeoning bid to return the UK to the EU under some auspices, that fight just isn't going away at all. In terms of this deal, Rishi Sunak could rely on Tory wets, the payroll vote, even if there are a couple of resignations, if that happens, Labour votes and Lib Dem votes and SNP votes. He could get this deal through, no question, in the House of Commons if he does choose to use the route of a parliamentary vote. He doesn't have to. He promised at PMQs last week there would be some sort of vote. We don't really know whether that would be binding or not, but he could do that without taking his whole party with him. Do you think that would be politically viable?
Well, I think that, first of all, he hasn't guaranteed there will be a vote. He said that Parliament would get a chance to express its opinion.
Good point,
that could be questions, a debate, or whatever. But secondly, I think that he's already weak. He's already, because of all the difficulties he's been facing about the way he was chosen as leader and about some of the rebellions there have been from backbenchers, he's well behind in the poll on points. And for any Conservative leader and Prime Minister to say that he could only get through an important issue such as this with the help of the opposition, I think would be the final nail in his coffin, because you can be sure of one thing, the Labour Party are not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. If they do support him, they'll be doing it because they know they can hold it over his head. Time and time again it'll be referred to almost every week that the government can only govern now in the House of Parliament through the support of the Labour Party. I can't think of anything more damaging to a Prime Minister. Now, he might be reckless enough to do that. If he does, I still don't know what his objective is, because he will split his party and he will not, and I can tell you this now, Julia, he will not get power sharing restored in Northern Ireland.
Which is one of the crucial aims, yes.
Yes, and to do so under those circumstances would mean that he'll be requiring us to implement a deal to put up border posts to ensure that those border posts were still operative, that EU law, when the EU changes law that we would apply it in Northern Ireland. And, you know, no unionist, I think, can afford
is going to agree to that. I mean,
that.
crucially, I mean, in terms of specifics, European Court of Justice, is that an absolute red line? If the European Court of Justice is the final arbiter in any trade dispute, is that just an absolute red line, nothing to discuss for you, not acceptable?
Well, Julie, let's remember that the role of the EU Court of Justice in Northern Ireland would not just be to adjudicate in a trade dispute. It would be to decide whether or not we had properly implemented EU law.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have EU law remaining to be applied in Northern Ireland, then there will always be a role for the European Court of Justice. So you have a situation where laws are made outside our country with no say by Assembly members or by the government at Westminster, that those laws have to be implemented faithfully by the administration in Northern Ireland. And if they're not administered faithfully, then the European Court of Justice will impose sanctions on the United Kingdom. Now, you know, what kind of Prime Minister is going to sign up to a deal like that? Laws made in Brussels instead of Britain, and judgments made in the European Court of Justice instead of British courts. That's a real dismissal of sovereignty.
Okay.
And no sovereign government, I believe. I mean, don't forget, Brexit was all about taking back sovereignty. And for the government to accede to those kind of demands to the EU, they've got a chance in these negotiations. If they haven't got it done right this time, then they're going to have to go back again because they're not going to achieve the objectives. And at the same time, I believe they're going to split their party further.
Sammy Wilson, DUP Chief Whip, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Bring back in Sam Armstrong for the Free Speech Union. Also a Brexiteer like myself. I mean, doesn't sound positive from Sammy Wilson, does it?
No. Odds on for a rejection from the DUP. The question is, how much of the Tory party can Rishi Sunak bring with him? Can he bring with him Steve Baker? It's been reported that he summoned Steve Baker in for a cup of tea to talk him through it.
And he left Downing Street with a big thumbs up, but
while Steve is always smiling, he's a cheerful chappy until he decides to walk out. So look, let's see. But if he can't bring the ERG with him, then really the writing is on the wall, I think, already for Rishi Sunak. The Tory party just cannot seem to hold itself together at the moment.
No, indeed. Again, there was a point when Brexit was going to tear apart the Labour Party as well, but it is just quite extraordinary. This is still rumbling on. Do you know what? I'm just going to throw this out here just one more time. If everybody had accepted the result in June 2016 and we just gone on as a united country to get the best deal from the EU and not saying, oh, basically, if you hold out, we'll try and come back in again. High Labour Party and the Lib Dems and large numbers of the Tory MPs as well. We would have got a great deal. We wouldn't have had any of these issues. We could have all moved on. It's your fault. If you'd actually been a Democrat, all you people who fought against that result, you're voting against Brexit, absolutely fine. No issue with that at all. Once the result happened, you had to accept the result. It's the Remoaners who've got us into this mess. I'm quite forgiving of Boris Johnson not doing a perfect deal because he just had to get some sort of deal over the line. But we're in this mess because of people still trying to side with the EU against their own country. That's the issue.